All right, hello everybody. We're back. Therefore, I say sorry. I'm Charlene.
And I'm Shaneka.
And today we are joined by a very, very special guest. We have Natalie with us, dating and relationship coach.
Yep.
Hello,
Hi
Natalie.
there. I'm Natalie Ford. Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you. So today I'm really excited about today's episode, and well, more importantly, obviously, because we've got an expert on our hands, we are going to literally fire her with so many questions. She's going to impart her knowledge.
Yes.
And hoping that we are going to start choosing correctly with some guidance here. We're about to call in the big dogs.
Yep.
We're going to get some guidance on how to choose correctly, how to love correctly, and just generally like what is going wrong with dating today in this day and age. Don't know if you would agree, but dating is become extremely difficult. Why do you think dating is so difficult?
I don't know. Why do I think dating is so difficult? I think largely it boils down to mentality. And the things I would say that are influencing us, that we are believing is maybe the correct way to think or the correct way to act when it's not a very advantageous mindset, I would say, or conducive mindset for a relationship.
Okay.
That would be my, wild guess on why.
And then I would probably say, I think it's expectations that's making dating go so wrong. I think it's the culture at the moment doing microwave rather than oven. I think we're in a place where people want quick results rather than wanting to see it actually go through its paces. I think there's so much options. I do options because not every option is good or not every grass is greener. I think there's so many options that people are less likely to want to endure. But what do we know? We have an expert here. So you tell us. Let's start with what would you say? What is probably making dating so difficult?
Yeah, cool. Thank you for the question. So I feel there's actually like a big picture at play. I feel like our generation and the generations younger than us, we're in a very privileged position of actually having the emotional space to make very conscious choices. Mm-hmm. Whereas like our parents and our grandparents were quite sort of survival focused because of things like the war and various other things going on. So for them, sort of being in a relationship was more about surviving. Like, you group together for that purpose and, you share costs, and it was really like surviving life. We don't have these concerns because, we've had the luxury of like not having major wars, and, there's generally just a bit more emotional bandwidth in our generations. So people did a few things. Like we got more fussy, which I think is a good thing. I'm all about standards. But also we want to move away from certain types of relating, like more of in the survival type of relating, there's a lot of what we call codependency, where sort of I only feel good about myself if you give me all the compliments and if you make me feel good about myself. It's very sort of my emotions are dependent on your emotions. Okay. But that's quite a difficult way to do relationships, really, because if you're having a crappy day, that means I'm having a crappy day too.
Yeah.
Ideally, we're working towards more like interdependence, where if you're having a bad day, like I can support you because I'm still having a good day.
Okay.
And vice versa. So certainly a lot of people in my world have been on like an empowerment journey to learn how to separate those pieces out, to learn how can I still feel good even if everybody around me's not feeling so great. But then that can lead us down other mindsets which are less conducive to actually what it takes to make love really last. Mm-hmm. So I'm all for empowerment, and I've done a huge amount of that myself, and I really support my clients to become like empowered. Mm-hmm. And there's also a balance between being an empowered individual and actually making love work.
Okay.
So I'd love to hear, like, what are your thoughts around what I've just said?
Well, first, I'm wondering. Okay, so when you speak about empowerment, what does that look like? Because I feel like there's different ways to digest it. Is it more like a strong woman, independent woman, or is it more just like I don't need to be validated by?
Yeah.
I don't know. What's your idea of empowerment? What does that look like?
Empowerment, I think, like less dependent.
Yeah.
More, independent, less kind of what they want and more like what I want. And, being able to vocalize what it is that I want and what I'm happy with and what not, what I'm not happy with.
Okay.
I would say, yeah.
Would you so I think...
I think empowerment, you're right, is a really, really broad term. So I think it's everything you've said, and I think it can also be other things too. I think for me, probably empowerment has been mostly about feeling free to be my true self. And that means if me being my true self, not trying to upset anybody, but me just being authentic is upsetting for other people, to recognize that that's about them and it's not about me.
Yeah.
And that can be a really challenging journey.
That's a really hard thing to do, though.
It's so
isn't it?
hard because we're really conditioned that, like, if I do something that upsets you, then I need to stop doing that thing. But what if that thing is just being me? Do I need to stop being me? And that becomes the question.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on it?
Well, do you know that's really interesting because I watched a bit too much reality TV.
I love it too.
Admittedly. But I remember watching it and one guy was being brutally honest to his partner. And I remember the experts at the time were saying to him, but if your brutal honesty is upsetting her, then basically go about a different way. And he was like, but that's just me. He was saying, I'm a brutally honest person, so that's how I'm delivering it. And I remember sitting there thinking, I don't know who's right, because part of me felt, just because you're honest doesn't mean you have to be upset people in your honesty. But then the other part of me was thinking, but if that's your truth, is it my problem you can't just digest it, or is it your problem you can't digest it? So then I now, after watching that episode, because I used to think, no, you can be honest, but you don't have to be rude. But now I'm not sure if it's hurting somebody, you should kind of like, amend how you're saying it to prevent that person being hurt. But then I don't know if that's taken away from your truth or who you naturally are. So
it is such a delicate balance.
Yeah.
Like, it really is. And this is where empowerment actually conflicts with harmonious relating. So empowerment would say, well, I can say whatever I want and you have to deal with it. Like, that's your stuff. You have to, if you're having a reaction, you need to see what the reaction is about and, maybe do a bit of inner child healing or whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
But the truth is, if you want to be in a loving, harmonious relationship, particularly if you're somebody like me that really wants to have an extended relationship, like ideally forever, old age until we naturally pass, then there comes a place of, where am I willing to work as a team with this person? Where am I willing to recognize that actually me doing something is really impacting the other person? And if I love and care about that person, I would want to reflect on my behavior. And this is such a key ingredient for lasting love and finding like your sort of forever person, is, are they able to be self-reflective?
Okay.
Can they look inwards and say, okay, why am I doing this? Like, what's my underlying intention, or what's my underlying goal? And to be brutally honest with yourself, never mind about anybody else.
Yeah.
The brutal honesty needs to be with self above everybody else. And something my partner says, which I love, is he likes to question, is there a way I can change what I'm doing or what I'm saying without being of detriment to myself. That's the key between healthy relating and unhealthy relating. Unhealthy relating would be like, I have to change regardless of how it impacts me.
Yeah.
Healthy relating is, well, I'm not willing to cause myself harm or detriment myself in some way. But if there's a way that I can change that doesn't hurt me, I'm all in.
Yeah. And that would make the most sense, isn't it?
Yeah.
Although that's hard. It's a hard thing. Like, it's hard only...
I think it is. It's interesting because I think I've heard someone actually dissect this just the other day, and it made me think, because I thought, wow, that's quite a self-aware person, and that's quite a deep analysis for you to make, you know? And it made me reflect on me, because I was thinking, I don't do that. If I'm upset about something, if it spoils the day, it spoils the day. I'm upset. And until that emotion is gone, then whatever it is. But for him to be able to reflect on that and think, no, actually, if I do this now, this is going to impact this, and this, and this. And actually, is it necessary? Is it that necessary that I need to make, you know, a thing about this, or I need to mention this thing now, you know, or can I actually wait and, you know, and we can discuss it maybe at a later date or find another way of addressing it? And I thought, that is actually really powerful. I need to adopt that. But,
It probably will make a lot of difference. But then I guess it's got to take you and your partner to both be in that same place of, because what it might feel like, if they're not at that place, you might feel like you're constantly doing that, or constantly being in a place where you're saying, okay, but then if they're not reciprocating it, you might start feeling like, sorry, are you gonna
Well, that's where you want to look at, like, are we matched?
Right. Oh, talk to me about matching. I want you to tell us. Talk to me about, because I think that's really difficult. How do you know this is your person? So if we go one step back, like, how do you go about choosing the right partner? Like, how do I find my match? Like, how do you know it's your match? Like,
so there's two questions there. One I'm not going to answer because it's just bigger than we've got today, which is, how do I find my man? If anyone's interested in that, then come check out my website, natalie-ford.com, and you can learn all about how to find your man.
Put it in the description.
Yeah. And the second question is, when you're with a man, like, how do you know if he's the one? And that is easier to answer. So you want to have a really good idea of what it is that makes you happy. And that requires knowing yourself. So sometimes we haven't got to that place yet, and that's okay. But then you do want to make that quite high up on your list, particularly if you're, you know, looking at, is this the right relationship for me? Looking at, like, well, what actually do I want really, truly from a relationship? Like, how do I want the other person to show up? How do I want them to love me? How do I want to be engaged in their life? And, you know, what do I want this to look like? And I always tell people to dream big, because if you really want it, you can make it happen. It may not be with your current person. It may be, you know, maybe you need to revisit that and be like, actually, this isn't quite the right person for me, and I need to, you know, go out there and sort of really choose consciously, because sometimes we fall into relationships and they're not a conscious choice.
Oh wait, Paul, sorry, just when you say it's not a conscious choice and fall into relationships, do you mean, like, I didn't say to myself, I want to be with that person, being the conscious, and falling into it being like, I don't know. What do you mean by, like, falling into it as opposed to conscious? Because I don't know. For me, I feel like it's so, I feel like most relationships are kind of fall into it.
Yeah. Generally, most people do fall.
Because you end up talking to somebody, like, dating, but you don't necessarily know where it's going to go, but then you might end up being together, but you may have not decided.
Isn't that a form of choice? Because even if you're talking to someone, you're still making a choice. There's so many people that you probably spoke to and you decided, actually.
That's what I'm wondering. What would be the definition of falling into then?
And choosing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So for me, falling is sort of where you're just hanging out with somebody, you know, whatever the circumstance, friends, work, or dating scene, and you're hanging out and you're not really thinking to yourself, like, is this the type of person that I want to be with? Does this person show up in life in the ways that make me feel proud of who he is? And I tend to talk about like heterosexual relationships, so you know, extend this to whatever your preferred gender is. But is he showing up the way that, you know, makes you feel proud of him? Is he showing you like respect and love and care and attention? And do you feel like you communicate well? Do you feel like, you know, you've got similar visions for the future? If you're not on some level considering these things, and it just sort of happens, and then you're like, oh God, you know, he's not really quite what I chose, or our vision for the future are completely mismatched and it's never really going to work. That's more like falling.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, makes sense, yeah.
So I'm curious, like with you two, like, are you in relationships? Did you fall? Did you choose? Where are you at?
So with that definition, I would say it was more of a choice. Because I feel like, so I am in a relationship, and I feel that, so it was almost like he was very intentional with what he wanted, and then I had to make a choice. Do I want to get serious and be in a relationship with him, or do I want to remain single and dating people and just living single life? So it was very much, he was very clear on, he just told me his 5-year plan. He just literally just told me what he wanted and what he had planned to do, and I was just like, I either want to do it with you or I don't. So I think when I put it, the reason why I asked what is falling, because I didn't know if mine would have been falling, because I felt we were just speaking and then he just presented it, and then I was like, okay, as opposed to, I was like, right, I want you. Do you know what I mean? That's why I was asking. But
don't you think somewhere along the line it might not have happened in maybe necessarily the same way that Natalie said it, but somewhere along the line you considered all those factors?
No, yeah, but only when he presented it to me.
Okay.
When he presented the actual, right, I want to be with you, before that, we were talking, but I didn't have, I wasn't looking for a partner or a relationship. So I wasn't thinking about where I wanted to go. I was just like, I enjoy your company, enjoy mine, we really get along, we're so similar, and then that's as far as I took it. But then I feel that was also, I think, when I look back, I think I was just protecting myself, because I think I didn't want to let myself really like him in case he wasn't ready for the same thing. So I think I kind of let myself be like, oh, whatever. And then when he said it, I was like, okay, yes. But so I think in that respect, I think I'll probably say I would say I chose.
Yeah. Because you actually like considered, okay, this is what he's offering. Do I want that?
Yeah.
Am I out for that or not? That's a conscious choice.
Yeah, that's a conscious choice. Yeah.
And also, you were a bit self-reflective just there, where you were like, oh, actually, maybe I was protecting myself. Maybe that's what was going on for me.
Yeah.
So you're also like looking and saying, oh, okay, yeah, maybe I had some things going on there that were like protecting my heart, which is cool. You know, we got to look after ourselves. Right? So,
exactly.
Yeah. And what about yourself, Shaneka?
So I am also in a relationship, and I suppose for me it was quite similar to, I think I'd experienced relationships before, and at that point I knew what I didn't want. I was now at a point where it was clear to me what wasn't going to work for me, and how I wanted to be loved, and the love that I wanted to see, and how I wanted to receive love. So when my partner came along, again, it wasn't like, oh, saw him, fell to the, I was head over heels. I think very similar to Charlene, at that stage in my life, I was also very much protecting myself. So no one was an option. I didn't want anyone, actually. When I was talking to my friends, it was like, nah. I wouldn't even allow myself to like anyone enough to go past a certain point. Everyone was just like, whatever. You're cool or whatever, but we're not going further than that. But this particular one, I found myself really liking how he loves you. How he loves you. Like, how he loved me. It was very much different to what I had experienced.
Yeah.
So when I saw it, I recognized it instantly. And even though it wasn't the conventional idea of, you know, how I necessarily wanted to be in a relationship, I knew that this was what I wanted, and this was very different, and this was, you know, the love that I needed. You know, I feel like in a lot of previous relationships, I was very much the giver.
Yeah.
And I felt like, even though I can play that role, is that what you want? Is that how you want to be loved? Because I feel like in that role, for me, it was very much giving, but not really receiving. And I just thought, no, why do I need to be in this position? Am I going to go and get another partner that I'm doing the exact same thing? And I think, I mean, to give myself problems, I think I do that role pretty well. But why do I need to do that? Why is that always required of me? Why do I always need to be in this position of giving? And why is it that we both can't give? Why has it got to be more one-sided? So, yeah, it was very, like, loud for me. And I think at the time it was quite, like, I didn't really know how to take it, because it's something that I hadn't experienced before, even though I knew I wanted it. So it was like, is this real? I found myself second guessing it all the time. Like, is this real? Is this actually happening? Is this real? Is this, you know, obviously over time it was like, okay, like, you pass the test of time.
That's good though, because some people in that position, if we're not used to receiving love, then in that moment when we're presented with love and it's unfamiliar, you manage to navigate the unfamiliarity and make it familiar, right? You got used to it. But some people get so freaked out by it because...
I think she was freaked out. She had a moment of freaking out, for sure.
I ran away so many times. Like, I blocked.
I think I similar. I freaked out so many times.
I freaked out. I was like...
I think definitely, when you've... so, I don't know if I think I've been... So, we've both been divorced, but I think when you've gone through such a massive... I think you naturally... When good comes, you're almost thinking... It's almost too good to be true.
Or is it real?
So I think we both similarly self-sabotaged at the start. I think I was driving my partner crazy because I was literally just thinking, you're too good to be true anyway. So what's the point? Like, what's the point of investing my feelings? You're going to just turn out to be like the rest. Yeah. And when they don't, it's a bit like
oh my gosh.
And it's so good that you both are able to look back and see, wow, that's how I could have really sabotaged this, you know? And that's actually what a lot of us do, you know. There's a part of us that feels like this is too good to be true, and then if we dig a little bit below that, we're like, well, can I really have this? Like, am I really worthy?
Do I deserve this?
Yeah. Do I truly deserve all this goodness?
And
the answer is yes, you do. Yes, you do. But that little voice can be quite niggly, and it can make us reject and push away and all the things, for sure.
So do you think, you know, like on that similar note, when you obviously you start dating someone or you meet someone new, and if you've had a lot of past negative experiences, how do you not let those negative experiences really cloud the person in front of you? Because it's like, you're not the same person, but how do you stop yourself from almost repeating the same things?
I mean, I could sit here and I could say, you know, well, you just see him for who he is, and, you know, you sort of bring yourself to the present moment. But the real hard truth of it is you need to do some of the healing work. You need to look at the parts of you that are hurting and unpick the story that has been created there. The story might be like, all men are bad, or love is dangerous, love is going to hurt, or everybody cheats on me. You know, whatever the story is, ideally work with somebody like myself or a therapist to unpick those stories so that you can start to discover what the truth is. Because the truth is, you've got an incredible man sat in front of you, and he is just loving on you for true, for real. And it's not this is going to hurt, this is going to cause me pain, he's going to cheat on me, you know, it's not safe. It's not all of those things. Those are the fears that we're carrying from the pain. And we've all had to do it. I've done 15 years worth of, like, healing or personal development, whatever you want to call it. Because, I wouldn't be able to be the person I am today, and I wouldn't be able to attract and have the incredible relationship that I have today, 15 years ago, the type of relationships I attracted, don't get me wrong, they weren't bad, but there was a lot of tolerating, I was actually quite an abusive person, like emotionally. I didn't know how to control my emotions. I didn't know how to like self-soothe if I got aggro, right? Yeah. I would take it out on my partner. I would yell and scream and shout, and thankfully he was quite tolerant too, because we lasted for about 5 years in that particular relationship. But I realized like love probably shouldn't be like this. I didn't know how it should be because I didn't see it be any other way, right? But I had this idea that like, I'm pretty sure that we shouldn't be yelling and shouting at each other. But when I got angry, I didn't know what else to do. Like that's the only behavior I knew. So I went on this journey of like unpicking those stories and healing the pain and learning like new ways, like what we call conscious communication. Like all it really means is communication where you're aware of like what you're saying and like what your intention is when you say it. So, like if one of the things I made some notes for today, like if anyone's watching the video, like I get a little nervous sometimes, like if I'm put on the spot. So I made notes so that like that part of me doesn't have to worry. Like I'm like, it's all right, we've got notes, we're good.
Go for it.
But yeah, I was thinking like really like the qualities that like we really want to have in a relationship. I noted like 7 that feel like super important, because obviously you're going to have preferences around, like, oh, he's into this type of activity, or he's got these type of personality traits, or whatever the thing is. But those are quite unique to us as individuals, right? Yeah. What I believe is quite foundational, particularly if you want this type of relationship where it's not all tolerating and it's not blaming and shouting and shaming and sort of like making each other wrong, like it just doesn't feel good. If you really want this type of love where it's really like you lift each other up, you're there to support each other and become better people as a result of your union together. Like for me, that's what I'm all about. So first of all, you want to make sure you've got a shared intention for what your relationship is going to be. Like if one of you's thinking casual sex and the other one's thinking marriage, you're not on the same page, right?
Yeah.
It's never gonna, even if
it ain't gonna happen.
Exactly. Even if you've got amazing chemistry, you get on.
Girls be like, they think they can change him, or one day he will.
Exactly. Yeah. Ladies, no.
Point blank.
Shared intention. The second thing, and actually Charlene and I were talking about this the other day, is integrity. Like both people in the relationship need to show up with integrity, and that means when you say something, you do it. And if you hold a value, you act with that value. You're not like, oh, I believe in taking care of the planet, but you do no recycling and you leave litter everywhere.
Yeah,
and
that's questionable.
You drive like 5 cars. It's like I'm not really seeing an alignment there.
Yeah.
So walking your talk. That's integrity. Able and willing to communicate what your needs are. So basically what you want. And if you're having a hard time, to express that to your partner, like, I am actually having a really hard time right now. I could do with a hug, or I'd love if you could cook dinner tonight because I'm absolutely exhausted. Even the little things. Or actually, it's been ages since we've gone out. Could we go out like to the movies or to a dinner or something? But rather than expecting him to be a mind reader, because sorry ladies, but they're not.
As much as we think they are.
As much as we would love them to be, because then we just get to sit there and be lazy, right? We get to sit there and be the little princess and just, send mind signals
and then he's just like,
read it. But unfortunately, humans don't work that way. So articulating what you want, what you need. And we already spoke about this one, the ability to be like self-reflective, to actually see if say you and I are having a fight right now, okay, maybe in the fight we're still fighting, but maybe afterwards we're like, wow, what just happened there? What happened in me that made that happen, and what happened in you that made, what did we both bring to that? Because there's always 2 people bringing stuff to it, even if it feels like one was more. Believe me, there's always 2.
Yeah, because you can't be talking to yourself. There's always got to be.
Yeah, there's no way that I can have an argument with you unless you argue
back.
Yeah, because you just sit there and be like, whatever, and I'd be like, ah. But so the self-reflection bit is like, well, what did I bring to that, and trying to work out like why, what happened in me that made that, and then communicating that. Like, actually, you said something to me, and I realized like that really that touched a nerve on me, and so I reacted. So, and then of course apologizing, right?
Yeah.
Having accountability with actually like owning your mistakes. You know,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I overstepped the mark with that. You know.
Yeah.
I was out of order, whatever it was, you know. So that's a huge part of it, huge. And that goes hand in hand with the integrity. Yep. And then 3 more pieces, because there's 7 in total. Adaptability.
Okay.
So learning, and it's actually like what we were saying before, like seeing how your partner shows up, what they need, and if it's different from the way you normally are, asking yourself like, could I accommodate that without it being detrimental to me?
Yeah.
Like, I really can't stress this.
It's very
the
important.
importance of that last sentence as well, without it being detrimental to me.
100%.
And if you can, great, adapt. Like, move so that you two like can find your way together. Trust, huge one. So both
That's
to give
massive.
and to receive.
Massive.
If we go on further to talk about like what really makes a relationship solid, like trust is a key component. But if you're somebody that's struggled with trust because you've been hurt a lot, which has also been my past, like my partner, he spotted that in the beginning, that like even though I'd done a lot of healing around my trust, he spotted that was a little bit of an edge for me. And so he's actually navigated that. Like, he's like, it's not detriment to him to extend a bit more trust or a bit more reassurance so that I feel safe.
And that's what makes sense, because I feel like there's some men out there, it's not my problem you don't trust. I'm not going to do anything more. And they make you be in your head to make you feel like, oh, I've just got to keep doing more. It's all on me. When in actual fact that, like you said, if it's not going to harm you, to extend yourself slightly just to help me in my healing process, why not? Why not? Like, I don't know why that's a big deal. It's like, we're not asking you to go above and beyond, and you know, I'm not asking for a tracker or anything crazy, but there's little things you can do to contribute to help me. And like you said, if it's not a detriment to yourself, then
it can be so hard though to feel like, why should I over accommodate you? Because also I guess there's probably underneath that a trust that it's not going to be reciprocated. And actually, really, if we're talking about forever love, it is, you know. Okay, fine, in this situation I'm going to overextend a bit to accommodate you, as long as it's not detrimental to me, but further down the line you're going to do something that's going to pay that back, right? So it's about this balance that just naturally occurs if we trust. But that would suggest to me that he doesn't really trust. He feels like, if I overextend for you, you're not going to give it back to me at some point. But that's a really fundamental aspect of trust, is like knowing that if you're really in this together, it is give and take. Like, there's times where I feel like my partner's giving loads to me, and I feel a bit like, wow, like, do I need to step up? But 3 months down the line, the tables are turned. Like, he's needing a lot more, I've got more to give, and suddenly I'm in the giving role and he's in the receiving role. Right. So it doesn't always have to be equal in the moment. Like, it gets to be equal over a period of time, you know. But I guess that's also something to be mindful of. Like, if you feel like it's not equal over a period of time, when you're really honest with yourself, then there might be a conversation to be had there. You know, like, hey, I feel like maybe you're giving a lot and maybe I'm not giving enough, or vice versa, you know. And then the last bit is that you genuinely want the best for each other. Like, really genuinely, I want the best for you, even if that means the thing might not be best for me. Like, actually putting the other person's wellness and health and mental health above your own egoic needs. And again, not to your detriment, but, you know, from a place of like, can I give that to you? And if I can, then I'd love to. So I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on those. So I would agree wholeheartedly. I think they're really, really valid points. And I think going back to the trust thing, I know that I think we touched on it, and we was talking about, and it's something I went back and actually was talking to my partner about, because I found it to be really useful when, I don't know if he was going to get onto it or not, but we was talking about the masculine and feminine energies. And one thing that stuck with me is when you spoke about trust isn't only about cheating. It's not only about
the other girl, the other guy, but trust also extends to, do I trust you're going to make the right decisions for us and our family? And I just thought, everyone gets stuck on, when you hear the word trust, girl, guy, cheating or not cheating. Yeah. But it's just like, that's not even, that for some relationships that's not even the issue. Sometimes trust is a lot further on, and we're thinking about something that I spoke about in a few episodes back. I was talking about one of my issues I felt is that I don't think I use the term masculine energy, but that's probably what it is. When I was talking about, I think a lot of my not wanting to be emotionally vulnerable and wanting to appear to be quite like all together and stern. And I realised that what comes with that is I want to make most of the decisions. And even when you do want to make a decision, in the back of my head I'm thinking, And then when you mentioned that day, I was thinking, oh my gosh. Trust is also extends to, okay, what is wrong with, why can I not just sit back and allow and I just thought, and I felt that was really useful, because I thought actually for a long lasting relationship, one thing that again you mentioned that I thought was really, really powerful was the whole point of, to look for the guy, you want to have masculine traits when you're looking for your guy, but the whole point of when you find your guy, revert back to the feminine traits. And I thought that is spot on, and I thought that is probably the issue. It's me I've got to now let go of those things, because I think when I look at the bigger picture, I think actually I think it's a lot more healthy. You can't have two men, or two masculine.
Not in a heterosexual relationship.
Exactly. Yeah. You can't have two masculine energies. It just doesn't work. And so I feel like when you read that list, when you spoke about trust, I think that's the thing that again was just in my head, like, reminded me again to make sure that that's something I really focus on. I think
for me it was probably integrity, which I think massive. It's so big, but it's so overlooked. Like you wouldn't 100%. Actually consider that this could potentially be one of the things that is causing an issue in a relationship, and it's that maybe the person doesn't do what they say they're going to do, or what they say they stand for, what they believe doesn't actually align with how they act and the things that they do, and how the effect that that's having in your mind and on you, and how you're and maybe how you're responding to that. So that was very interesting. I thought, okay, that makes a lot of sense. That actually makes a lot of sense. Thinking back into like previous relationships, that plays a massive part. It's so big.
A man's word is his honour, right? Yeah. So and I think with women, because we're so emotional, I think sometimes we get away with, we could say certain things, and I think a guy could be like, oh, she said that because she's upset. But with a guy, because they're more logical, the assumptions you say, when you say something, you mean it. So when they say something, they don't stick to it, it feels really like, wow.
And then I suppose that's when it can also like then lead into mistrust.
Right, then you want to now make all the decisions because you're thinking, you don't do what you say you're going to do.
So let me do what I need to do, obviously, to protect me, or, to protect us as a family, because obviously what you're saying you're going to do isn't coming to fruition. At what point do you think, though, in a relationship, you kind of need to maybe, shall I say, step in? Because, like, you could be in a relationship, right? And the guy is leading and, it's fine and everything's working. And I don't know, maybe he could be going through, like, a bit of a patch, and, maybe he's unable to
make the right decisions
for that moment. Would you say it's then okay for a woman to kind of like, kind of step in and say, okay,
I'll take it from here, babes.
and kind of lead? Or would you say that, kind of continue to leave it in his court and he will kind of suss it out?
Yeah, so this is, where do I want to go? Because it's potential for a big topic. So, first of all, I guess I would say that a relationship doesn't have to be with, and I'm talking heterosexual relationship, doesn't have to be with the man leading and the woman sort of supporting or following. That's just one model. That's one way it could look. And you get to decide in your relationship, like consciously with your man. So you get to have a conversation with your man and sort of be like, you know, how does this work best for us? You know, does it work best where we're making shared decisions, or does it make best where sort of like, you know, maybe you take some of these decisions and I take some of these decisions, or, you know, it's open communication. To pick up on what Charlene, you were saying about the masculine, feminine. So to just give a bit more like perspective to that aspect of our conversation, which happened outside of this conversation, was that I feel like the masculine energies in us are like sort of being very goal-oriented, very sort of purpose-driven, being quite protective of ourselves. So that's like our inner protector. Like, so I don't think any of this is bad. Let me just be really, really clear. Like, we've all got masculine and feminine energies, regardless of what gender you are, and none of it's bad. We just want to have awareness of like when we're in one more than the other, and whether that's where we want to be residing. So we have like an inner protector, regardless of your gender, men and women, or all the genders, that takes care of us, protects us, has a direction about where we're going, does the decision making, those type of things. And I feel like those are really strong qualities for finding your man, right? You wanna be clear what you're looking for in a man. You wanna go out and get it, and you wanna, you know, sort of chase your dream, so to speak. But if you want a masculine man, a strong, empowered masculine man, and you're a strong, empowered woman, those energies can butt heads. Like, and that's where you often come up against conflict and fighting. And that's where a lot of men these days are saying, like, the woman is confrontational, or the woman is like aggravational. And what he's really meaning is, I'm coming up against her masculine energies and it doesn't feel good. Because the truth is, like, if you think about magnets, you know, you put two types of the same magnet together, they repel each other, right? You've got to have the poles the right way around for them to be attracted. And it's the same with energy in humans, you know. So what works well is like when one partner is in more of the receptive energies, the feminine energies, which is sort of being a bit softer, a bit more open, a bit more, I guess, adaptable, being able to be a little bit more led or sort of following. But that doesn't mean you have to be in that position all the time. Right, so you might be in this moment because it's appropriate, but then maybe it swaps over. So I know for what I've seen in my partnership, I struggle with things like overwhelm and stress. Like, those are my weak areas. My partner's so good with that. Like, he's so chill, he's so calm. Nothing really overwhelms or stresses him, like, ever. So when I'm getting stressed and overwhelmed, he starts to take over. He supports me because he knows that's my weak space and it's his strong space. But for him, when he's got stuff going on inside of him, like the emotional stuff, he's not so good at figuring out what's going on. Like, he can get there, but it takes him weeks. And I'm a little bit impatient. I like us to get there faster.
What's wrong? Tell me now.
So I help him out with that. I help him navigate how he's feeling. I ask him certain questions, you know, well, how do you feel about this? Or, you know, do you have an understanding why you might be feeling that way? Or, you know, was there a time that you remember feeling this type of way before? And we go a bit deeper into himself. So in that case, he's actually in the receptive energy and I'm in the leading energy. But that's not wrong. That's just us swapping areas. But on the other one, where like the overwhelm, I'm in the receptive and he's leading.
Okay, yeah.
So it's really just about like navigating that. So I actually lost like my point where you were talking there, Shaneka. Tell me, like, how does that relate to what you were saying there? Because I forgot that bit.
I think that was because I was talking about, you know, like you were saying, like yourself, for example, you know, on his part, when, you know, he's a bit emotional and he doesn't really know how to navigate that.
Yes.
Is it okay as the woman to kind of, you know, step in and, you know, maybe, you know, like you said, like become like more of the masculine energy, and then, you know, he would sit back and so I was kind of just asking, like, is it normal kind of like for that to happen?
So I would say what's normal is that you will swap those energies for sure. But what you might like to do, if you're not really sure, you can just ask. Like, we don't ask enough questions in relationship. Like, we get 100%. Scared of like, should I, shouldn't I, and we're sat there all by ourselves, should I, shouldn't I, trying to make a decision. Whereas we could just say, hey babe, I'm thinking about this, like, should I do this or should I do that? Like, what would be better for you?
Yeah.
You know, we can just ask the question, but we're so not used to doing that.
Yeah, 100%.
So I would say to him, hey, babe, whatever you call him, you know, I noticed, like, that, I don't know, like, you got some stuff going on right now. I'm wanting to make some decisions. How would it feel for you if I made those decisions, or do you want to be involved? You know, like, do you want to make them decisions? Can we make them together, or should I just go off and do my own thing? You know, like, have just a conversation.
Open conversation.
Yeah, and I think often we're scared of asking questions because we're scared of, like, what's this going to open up? But really and truly, if you want to have a relationship forever, you got to go there. Yeah. You got to go there.
Yeah, and that statement there actually makes me think about. So obviously we're both in relation. Well, we're all in relationships. So look at us. But then it's like, okay, so now we're here. Obviously, I find it to be. I feel like relationships is such a topic that is so difficult because every situation is going to be different. Yeah. But commonly, I wonder what makes relationships last. How do you make love last? Because, you know, everyone talks of this honeymoon period. I don't know if you guys would agree or not agree with what that statement means to you, but personally, I wouldn't say I believe in the honeymoon period, because I'm a strong believer is two people just keep making that effort, that honeymoon period almost doesn't ever have to end. Because when I think of honeymoon period, I just think about the happiness and laughing and the fun, but I feel like that doesn't ever have to stop. Because I feel like it doesn't. I just feel like, why would that stop? But that might be because how some people define honeymoon period might be different.
That's because actually the honeymoon period is not necessarily that.
Right.
So the honeymoon period is typically this place where we haven't really got to know the other person yet, and we're actually operating from an image in our head of what we think that person is. Who we think that person is. So we're not really dating the actual person. We're dating our perception of what we hope or want them to be. Right. And the honeymoon period is where that bubble bursts. And then you're like, oh, wait, reality just kicked in.
Is that him?
So what I actually advocate is try not to get caught in that trap in the first place. Right. Try to be aware that that trap happens, and it actually happens for chemical reasons. It's not anything that you're doing wrong. It's not a, like, what would be the word? Like a fault of you as a being. It's actually a animal chemical bonding process that's happened that is designed to make us blind so that we don't really see what's happening, so that basically we mate and procreate. You know, it's an animal bonding thing.
That makes sense.
Yeah, like, which is why you sometimes end up in a relationship and you're like, how did I even get with this guy? Like, really? Like, what's going on?
Whoa. So much things are coming back to me and I was like, wow.
It's all the serotonin and all the oxytocin, all the chemicals they took over, and you went with your animal body, you did lots of love making, and then, you know, then one day you woke up and reality kicked in, you were like, whoa, okay, hang on. Well, what happened?
Stop. Wow, yeah.
So the way I like to approach it, and the way I encourage my clients to approach it, is like, be aware that happens, right? This chemical process is going to happen. It's natural.
Yeah.
Try and check in with reality frequently. Like, check in, like, actually, who is this person really? Ask the difficult questions. If there's a question that you want to know and you're too scared to answer, too scared to ask the question because you don't really want to know the answer, you got to ask it, because otherwise you are intentionally living in something that's not reality.
Yeah.
So if you know that you're like, oh, I really want to ask this question, but I better not. Like, no, you better have.
Like, you better do it.
Because at the end of the day, if it's all going to go blow up and go wrong, wouldn't you rather happen now?
Yeah.
So that you can recover and go and find your correct man, rather than be down there 10 years, 15 years, and then be like, whoa, I wasted my life.
Yeah.
So, the honeymoon period doesn't have to... the fun and games and... you know, having a great time doesn't have to end, for sure. You can cultivate a relationship that has those ingredients ongoing, for sure. Yeah. But wearing the rose-tinted glasses, that has to end at some point.
You need to take... Okay, in that case, the glasses do need to come off. I retract my earlier statement.
Sunglasses down.
Dash them. That makes sense now. Because I've always thought honeymoon period was just the fun and games. I didn't know it was the actual...
I didn't really define it, really.
I just imagined it was just like, and I thought, what are you talking about? We're still having fun. Meanwhile, but that, now you say it makes sense, because I guess when you first meet someone, you're never gonna fully know them, because time is everything. It's impossible, and I'd feel like you're constantly getting to know your partner anyway, no matter how many years in you are, because there's always things you're like, oh wow, didn't know that about you. So that actually makes sense, doesn't it? Yes. So what do you think? What other components would you throw into the mix when you think about making love last? So those of us that are in relationships and we're thinking that this is the one, but I want to be intentional about this being forever.
So I would what we said earlier in the episode, the 7 qualities. I would first of all check that both of you have those, and if you haven't, you can work towards them, right? It's not a deal breaker, but you want to be conscious that, okay, maybe we're missing those, we want to work towards those,
right?
And then just to help the little part of me that tends to get like stage fright, I did write out.
Of course. I love it.
I feel like, for me, like what I teach and what I truly believe in and what I've seen works for me and my clients is, so there's got to be a foundation of safety in your relationship. And safety, I mean, obviously you've got physical safety. That's like just a given. If there's not physical safety in your relationship, get out. Don't even try and work on that. Just get out. Let's just put that one out. But I'm talking emotional safety.
Yeah. Okay.
So commitment is a way that we can give emotional safety to each other, because we say, I'm really in this. Like, I'm willing to stay in this, even if it gets hard, even if it gets messy. Like, I'm in this.
She's like, depends how messy.
I think I'll check it out today. I don't know.
Okay, Shaneka's already on the bus home. and I guess this might be in your remit here. That involves not threatening to break up or leave when things get hard.
I'm not looking at anybody. I'm
not looking at anybody.
I'm admiring the scenery over there.
Because when we threaten, I'm going to leave, or right, that's it, it's over, we create a real shaky foundation. And it's hard to build a house if your foundations are shaky, right? So I've also had to work on this, right? I don't so much like say it's over, but sometimes I will be like, so my partner and I don't live together right now. So I'll be at his house and I'll be like, if we had a bad fight, I'll be like, I'm going home. Yeah. And he's like, don't do that, because you're weakening our foundation. Like, you're weakening the structure of this relationship. And I'm like, okay, well then I just need to go for a walk to calm down. Just let me get some air so I can chill. So and he's like, that's good, as long as you're coming back.
My partner is the one that would say, I'm just going to go for a walk. Yeah. And I'm like, I think I need some space. I think I need to reconsider.
This one. This one, yeah. She's like...
I hear you. And actually, let's to just put some compassion on this, because I'm all about like actually really holding compassion for ourselves, right? Yeah. What that really means is you've got some pain in yourself from the past, and some fear, and possibly some broken trust from the history. Yeah. And when that comes up, you get scared. Yeah. Like, ultimately, that's what that means. Yeah. Right? So it's not you being bad or not good enough or any of them things. It's
badass.
But you can also take some time to, to try and look at that and to see if you can shift some of that out of your system, with like maybe a therapist or a coach or something, or even just with a really damn good girlfriend. So,
Bill.
So number 1, safety. Number 2, trust. We already spoke about trust, but actually I want to just recap to say like that. So there's obviously trust that he's not going to cheat or whatever, or she's not going to cheat. But there's trust of the integrity. We spoke about that. Trust their intentions are always good. Right. Because if a man or a woman really loves you, they are not going to intentionally hurt you, right? They might end up hurting you accidentally, but it will never have been their heart's desire when they made that decision to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to really hurt her, So you got to trust that even if it didn't go the way you'd like it to, the intentions at the beginning were good.
Yeah.
Can I ask something? I'm sorry to cut you here.
Right. I saw the hand
I need
going
to.
Up. Like,
Miss, question.
So, can somebody?
I feel like you're gonna answer that. What I was gonna ask. That is crazy.
Can somebody love you and cheat on you?
I knew you was gonna answer. I was gonna ask that.
Can that actually happen?
Yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Charlene is hell bent that no.
I don't believe it.
So they don't have integrity though.
Ooh.
They don't.
Yeah.
Integrity is, I love you, and therefore I'm not going to do anything to jeopardize that.
Yeah.
So yes, I can love you, and yes, I can cheat on you, and those two things can be true at the same time, but it means that I don't have integrity.
So the only thing I'd argue, and it's so funny because I actually watched a reel today where the guy was agreeing with me. The only thing I'd argue is because I feel like what we define what love is, in it being selfless, and I think the minute you do that action, then both can't be true at the same time, because whilst you could have loved me, the moment you do that action, I feel like, do you still love me? Because for me, love isn't the feeling. I believe love is the action. So if it's a commit, so if you might have feelings for me and cheat on me, 100%. You got feelings for me, you cheat on me, but if you love me, I think that comes with acting like it's a decision, and you act like you love me, you act kind, you act selfless. Then I think if you've managed to do that action, that would suggest to me you don't in fact love me, because that's the action. Do you get it? It's like what you're doing for me feels like that doesn't, to me, what my definition of love is.
I'm going to give you a little preview of the deeper work that I do with women, and we're just going to go there short because I appreciate we have a time limit on this today.
So yeah, go.
But so we got to ask ourselves, why do people not have integrity? Because everybody wants to have integrity, right? Everybody thinks they do. The truth just may not be the reality. Mm-hmm. So the thing that pulls us out of integrity is when we don't truly value ourselves. We maybe we've got quite a strong inner critic because of stuff in the past, whatever the reasons are, I'm not judging those, but maybe we don't truly love ourselves, and maybe we've got a very strong inner critic, and that keeps us very, very dependent on other people to make us feel good. So it means that for us to feel good, we are very susceptible to how other people treat us. Right. And if you're dating a man who has this type of wounding, he's maybe not feeling so great about himself, or maybe he's got a very strong inner critic, if another lady gives him oodles of attention and approval and love and adoration, his little wounded ego is going to be like, I got to go this direction, actually, and the integrity can't hold, because the wound, the pain that he's trying to not feel, is soothed by being in this other situation. And that's why people don't have integrity, is because their wounding pulls them off track. So it is so important, really, to get with somebody who either has done quite a lot of their healing work, or at least is aware of what that is, aware of what their weak spots are. Because that is why I use integrity as a marker, because we can look at things like kindness and all of those things, which are all good and well, but those all come naturally with somebody with integrity, right? If they've got integrity, of course they're going to be kind, because that's one of the values that most humans hold as part of being a human, right?
Yeah.
But integrity can only be maintained if they know themselves, and if they've actually got a good relationship with themselves too. So a breach of integrity really is just a reflection of somebody's relationship with themselves. It's not actually even a reflection on you. You just happen to be a consequence of the circumstance.
Okay, that's actually so interesting, and I really like that, the way you've explained that and put that together.
I don't know if it's a bit deep, because
I love it.
We go super deep.
No, so. I love that, and I think
it makes
that would make a lot of sense. But then, but for me, I would then rewind back and consider, like you said, that person will have to acknowledge these things possibly, and that's why I think we spoke about an episode, and we were talking about trauma, and we were talking about bringing past trauma into a new relationship, and we was looking at the idea of what that might look like, and I feel that that's what, and I think when I think of a lasting relationship, sometimes I think if we've not done enough self-reflection, you're gonna pick the wrong person, and then on top of that, it's likely that if I've not done enough self-reflection, type person, and I'm in the and let's say however I am, let's say I'm someone that cheats a lot, I feel then to enter a relationship without dealing with that.
You're just going to carry it
is
forward.
Problematic. And then that's why I was saying, sometimes, in a previous episode, I'm muddling up all the episodes, but
okay, it's good.
I was essentially saying that that's why we was talking about the facts about women that get cheated on. Sometimes it's because it's how we're choosing, and we're choosing these men that are not healed. They're not they're not willing to look
because
within.
We aren't upholding our standards. So one of your standards should always be, he has integrity. If you see he doesn't have integrity, my honest truth is you probably shouldn't be in that relationship. Honest truth. Because you deserve better. You deserve a man who has integrity. And that needs to be a standard that you uphold for yourself. Yeah, and if we are, whatever we don't heal in ourselves, we're going to keep taking relationship to relationship to relationship.
100%.
So you're going to keep attracting the same guys over and over again until you work out why you're attracting them.
100%.
And that's a big part of the work that I do with my clients, is helping them break those patterns so that actually they get to choose a man who's truly worthy of them, right? Yeah, to really see like your value.
I love that. Ooh, this is so juicy.
And I love that you've talked about trauma, because I do a lot of trauma work with my clients too. So
we
won't go there today because it's a big subject, but I love that you've covered
yes,
that on
oh my gosh.
a previous episode of this podcast. So yeah, wind back and listen to that one, listeners, if you haven't already. So we've covered safety and trust. The next big one is respect. There must be mutual respect of each other's views and opinions, even if they differ. It doesn't make them wrong. You just say, okay, well, you have that view, it's different from mine. Even if like I really don't agree with your view, I still
really don't agree.
I still respect that you have it and you're entitled to have it. Like you're a different human being to me. Like we don't have to be the same human being. No name calling.
Yeah, 100%.
Especially in fighting. No, because it's disrespectful, and as soon as you do that, like you're breaking the code of being a team. You're breaking the code of actually loving somebody.
100%. Yeah.
Now, to let somebody have their view, you have to let go of being right. So that can be a really hard one. Believe me, I know.
That is hard. But it's, fair.
In the middle of a fight, remember how much you love them. This is part of the respect, is in the middle of the fight. I know, it's the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing. But if you can step back in the middle of the fight and look at your man and be like, oh my God, in this moment, I really hate you, but I love you so much. Right, literally. Like, you don't be doing
I hate you so much right now. I'm joking, not
like,
really.
you driving me nuts right now, and I still love you. And
that would actually probably, imagine though, if you're in the middle of an argument, that would probably resolve so much. If you're in the middle of an argument,
Charlene would melt. If in the middle of an argument, love just says, I love you.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that's besides the point.
I'm like, well, why are you being nice for? But that actually probably will throw off.
I'm telling you.
I'm
going to try it.
Well, it's what we call de-escalation. So when we fight, we go higher. We escalate, right? And there's a number of ways you can de-escalate. But one of them is to bring in humor. Sometimes it's appropriate, sometimes not. If it isn't, learn. But the other is just remembering, like, oh my God, we're in a fight right now, but I still am crazy about you in a good way, you know, good crazy. The other piece of respect is like never speaking badly about your partner to somebody else. And that doesn't mean that you can't hold a safe space with somebody and be like, I just need to process right now. Like I need to vent, and you acknowledge that's what you're doing. Yeah. But even then you can try to be respectful about the way you talk about your partner. It could be, you don't want to just blame all your stuff on them. Yeah. Then we've got communication. Big one, right? Willingness to express your needs. We already spoke about that. Willingness to like understand what your partner is trying to say. Oh yeah, it's a big one. It's a big one because we want to like, we're trying to like, often when we're listening, we're not truly listening. We're planning what we're going to say next.
100%.
Oh my God. So you got to check that one out for yourself. You're like, am I actually listening, or am I trying to plan what I'm going to say back? Yeah. Because those two do not go together.
Basically.
Do have regular check-ins with your partner. And what that looks like is just every now and then, not regular. I've tried with various different relationships to have like weekly or monthly. It just doesn't work. Like just as and when you remember, just check in and be like, hey, how are we doing? You know, are you feeling like things are good? Is there some stuff coming up for you? Are any of your needs like not feeling met? And then also, of course, you include yourself in that. Are any of my feelings not feeling met? And you have an open conversation. Now that takes courage, because you also might open up a can of worms, which is going to be difficult. But that can of worms going to be there whether you open it or not. Right? Yeah. You can have it festering in your house, like under the carpet, waiting to explode when you're not expecting it. Or you can open them one by one in a safe way in a conversation, you know? It takes courage. But also speaking to potential problems before they become big problems. So like my partner and I actually just did this today. Like we've not been spending super amounts of time together. I'm feeling like we're not really getting enough quality time. And I just called it out today, and I just said, look, how are you feeling about this? He's like, I'm aware of it too, and I would like us to change it. Like, I know that we're both stressed. Like, he's working a lot, I'm working a lot. We got other things going on. And so what we've said is like, okay, well, let's try and do one extra day that we spend together in the week so that we just get that extra evening or that extra morning, you know? Yeah. But we brought it up before you get 3 months, 6 months down the line, and we're like, I haven't spent any time with you.
Yeah.
You know, like, let's not go to that place. Bring it up to start.
Yeah. Sorry, just so, do you think, at what point, so I can't remember, I think we might have spoke about it some time ago, but, so, you know, I feel like some of the reservations, I know with me personally, I feel like, I don't know how many people would agree, with bringing things up to your partners. As women, I think sometimes for us that could, if we really brought up everything all the time, it may feel like either you're nagging or you're doing it too often. Yeah. So, I know one thing I did learn is that, because since I become this new person and I want to communicate everything, I think I started going overboard. And then somebody said to me one time, if that thing's not going to bother you by tomorrow, then just let it go. And I just thought, true. A lot of the times, I would have forgot about it. I'm over it by the next day. So I thought, okay, those things I don't need to address. But what about if you've addressed something and you've given a significant time frame and it's still not been implemented, you've discussed it again, you've given a significant time frame.
Are you talking about where maybe you've asked someone to make a change?
Yeah. Right. So like a change, or like, let's say something as simple as, can you, I don't know.
This is a big one for people who live together.
I was going to do such indirect. I'm like, maybe could you do the night feed sometimes? Let's just say that, for example. How many times do you think, like, at what point, like, yeah, like, I don't know, because I wonder, like, obviously, if I say to him, my babe, like, can you help me do the night feed? He's like, yeah. Then let's say he doesn't hear her. And then in a few months' time, oh, babe,
hang on, no, stop there. He doesn't hear her, but you hear her, right? Yeah. He said he's going to do the night feed.
Yeah.
So that's where you're like, babe, can you wake up now, please?
Yeah, and then what if they're a really deep sleeper? I'm throwing him under the bus. But what if, like, because I think, so the thing is, I feel like I'll mention it, then he'll get up. But then obviously, I mean, admittedly, I'm breastfeeding, but sometimes I'll be like, look, we can give her a bottle for the nature of me just sleeping for the night. And then, admittedly, sometimes it's my fault, because, you know, he will get up, and then I'll end up hearing it and waking up and then just being like, I'll just do it.
As women, we are super, super attuned to hear the noises because it's part of our maternal instinct, right?
Yeah.
So you will wake up.
Yeah.
But I wonder, I get really curious.
Yeah.
Is there a degree of you not trusting him to do a good enough job? Or is there a degree of you like being like, oh, I'll just do it myself?
I think probably. I think in my mind, I feel like I'll end up just doing it quicker. And also then I think, although I've expressed it to him, then I also sometimes I start feeling bad and start feeling like, oh.
Because he does have to get up for work in the morning.
I'm talking about on weekends. Oh. Then I start to feel bad and think, oh, like, he is working all week. And then I'm sure he's exhausted.
But so are you working all week, just with a different type of job, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and then that's what...
It comes down to if he said yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you blackmailed him and it was sort of like one of those, oh, God, yeah, fine, yeah, I'll do it. That's not a genuine yes. That's not an authentic, consensual yes.
Yeah.
If he has been like, yeah, sure, I'm happy to do that.
Just hold him accountable.
This actually comes down to the trust piece.
Yeah.
He said yes. You got to trust that he's a yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you've also got to trust that he's going to do a good job with that too.
Yeah.
If it takes him a bit longer, he might need to learn. You know, he might have a learning curve.
Yeah.
But you got to
just got to let go.
Relinquish a bit of that control and give the trust. Extend the trust.
Yeah, no, I think true. Yeah, because I think no communication. I don't know. I feel like I was saying in the previous episode, sometimes I think as women, sometimes I think it sounds like we're nagging when we're just trying to communicate.
Yeah, so nagging.
Remember on the episode, there was a gentleman we had on, and he was alluding to the fact that basically...
You have no business.
he like the two, remember, like the one we had on first, when he was basically saying that women often, the amount of times you go on about something is basically a headache to your partner.
Because it's a lack of trust. If we trust a man's integrity, which means that if he says he's going to do it, he'll do it.
What if the time frame? I know you did speak about that today actually, which did really make me rethink everything.
If the time frame has got too long for you,
Mm-hmm.
he is still going to do it, but it means that he thinks it's a lower priority than you do.
Right.
So that's not wrong. That's just a miscommunication. Then you need to say, hey, babe, actually, this is really high priority for me. Like, can we bump it up your priority list so it gets looked at sooner?
Right.
So it's
Make it number one.
Well, but you also need to respect that he might have some priorities
Yeah,
too.
it's true.
Like, if he's doing something for you, he might have, like,
Other
a top
things.
5, and yours might have to be number 6.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But,
You're right with that, Shan. Be number 6.
but you
We're
can
working
also
on it.
you can also just really say to him, let him know why it's so important for you, why it feels so urgent for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then he can take that into account, trusting his integrity, that he will do a good job. Because one of the big things that we as women don't trust men on their integrity is that they will take care of us if we let them.
That's something
That
I had
is-
to learn.
Yeah, I'm learning.
Yeah.
And it feels good, actually.
will.
So
It does.
It
It
actually
feels amazing.
Oh, I
like
love that
on
all
the
3 of us
weekend being
have
cooked.
evidence of that. Like, we've
Honestly.
seen that. But it can be hard to trust because maybe we haven't always had it in the past.
Yeah,
right?
I think it takes time. Yeah, 100%.
But that is the trust piece.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay,
if
yeah.
ever you feeling like you need to nag him, just ask yourself, what am I not trusting?
Yeah.
I'm not trusting either he's going to do it, which he will because he said he would. Sometimes people forget though. Then you might just say, hey babe, did you remember this thing?
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, can you let me know where is this on your priority list? Like, give me a rough estimate. Is it going to happen this week, next week? You know, not in a, babe, I need you to do it this way, but in a genuine
Yeah.
curiosity. Could you let me know when it's going to happen?
Yeah.
So I would agree with the gentleman that came on, and yeah, women do nag because we don't trust. Yeah, but that might also be because we've been with men which don't have integrity, and then you've
Well, they
got to choose
themselves
better.
don't have the guy that you're with, not even a previous, but the current
Well,
guy
yeah.
also doesn't have integrity.
Well, then we need to choose better, really.
Yeah.
If you're noticing they really don't have integrity, you need to upgrade.
Yeah. And stop trying to change them.
Yeah, they don't change.
Stop
They will
trying
only
to change.
change if they want to change for
Right.
themselves. So they can change, but they've got to want it for themselves. We
Themselves.
cannot make them change.
Yeah,
100%.
100%.
Learn the hard way. No, I think it's true. You know what I mean? I think you've got to get to a place now where you realise I can't fix everybody,
can't,
or
yeah.
not everyone. You can't make everyone change.
Yeah.
So yeah, 100%.
Wow.
Loved that.
Amazing.
Shall I run through these 3 last
Yes,
ones?
keep
Okay,
going.
yes, please.
Okay, I don't know how we're doing for time.
No, don't worry about it.
Okay. So the last...
We're actually doing fine.
We're doing good
Yeah.
on time? Okay, cool. The last 3 things that I have on my list for, like, how to really make love last long term is adopting an attitude of curiosity when we're annoyed. So,
Right.
and I don't mean like, well, you can do it mid-fight, but that's much harder. I mean the little things. Like, if he's, I don't know, tapping his foot and it's annoying the life out of you, you know? Or if he's playing on the computer games again,
Or Twitter, like.
or Twitter, or whatever the thing is, you know, get curious in yourself and try to understand, like, why is he doing it? Because he's not doing it to annoy you. I can promise you that. I can promise you, if he's a man with integrity, right? He's not doing it to annoy you.
Right.
He's probably doing it because he's trying to let off steam. Maybe he's had a busy day. Maybe he needs some time for himself so that he can show up as an incredible partner for you. We as women, we have to allow men time, and actually they have to allow us time to recharge by ourselves, separate from the other, so that we can show up in the relationship in our full self. Otherwise, we show up depleted, we show up halfway, and then we get criticized because it's not good enough. Because, to be honest, to show up halfway when you could be showing up more, you know, you would want better for yourself. So, to ask yourself, get curious. The curiosity is like, why might he be doing that? And if you don't know, you can ask, you know. You can actually, from a place of real heartfelt curiosity. Okay, then there's a big one next, but actually let me do the easier one. So the easier one is teamwork, right? I think everybody sort of knows this, but I did not truly learn that until this relationship that I'm in now, which is like the last 2.5 years.
Well,
I've always known that. I think in like my previous relationship, that's one thing I've always like asked for. Can we work as a team? I feel like if we work as a team, we'll be able to do so much better than what we're doing. We would have so much more than what we were having, but not everyone kind of has that mindset.
What is your idea of
able to
working as a team, though? Do you mean as in like come together and with like projects and talk about things? Or, you know, you said that you've only realised it now. Is that because you didn't think you had to work as a team?
I always knew we had to work as a team, but
Or you didn't know how to?
I never really saw positive examples in society of how it looks to really have each other's back, like really have each other's back. Yeah. And when you do it, oh my God, it is life-changing. But it requires so much trust. So the trust and the being teamwork comes hand in hand. Because if you struggle to trust, you're going to struggle to be a team. Yeah. Because you don't truly trust that the other person's going to show up. But what I mean by it specifically is, I mean, you got everyday practical stuff. And actually, this is sort of what I spoke about earlier with my partner. Like, so if I need help with something, allowing him to help me. If he needs some help with something, me stepping up and helping him. There's times where he works from home and he's so busy that the kitchen piles up with dishes and things don't get done. Now, I could come in and be like, oh my God, what's going on here? Judgmental. Yeah. Or I could be like, hang on, this is a man with integrity, right? This is not his normal. Yeah. What is going on? Yeah. So I check in with him, oh babe, I've had a crazy week. And I'm like, oh, well, let me help you. If I can extend myself without, what we say, detriment, right? I'm going to do the washing up for you because I see that you're working extra hard, right? To try and support us as a unit, right?
Right, makes sense.
It also means in like solving problems in the relationship. So if one of the problems in relationship is your partner isn't waking up at night to do the baby feeds, actually having a non-emotional conversation about that, saying, look, babe, like, I'm still waking up. I try to wake you up. You're sleeping like a log. Like, how can we do this, right? What is a good way for me to, well, first of all, do you want me to wake you up? And if he's authentic, he'll be like, yeah, I do. Okay, so what's a good way that I can wake you up?
Yeah.
You know, so you problem solve together.
Yeah.
It's not you sat there by yourself thinking, oh my God, I've got to do this all by myself. Yeah. You're in a team. And it's remembering over and over and over again, I can rely on him. Yeah. I'm in a team.
Do you feel like when you haven't experienced that before and you get into a relationship and you start to experience it, do you think that you can become like over
reliant on it?
Yeah. Like you can become
give us things, because why
like,
would
do you feel like it can become like, you can almost become, when you have someone that is so like accommodating and you know is really helpful, like, you know, you can identify when they need support, they can identify when you need support. Do you feel like sometimes it can make you become quite complacent because you know that the person
it's no longer teamwork, is it?
What if you're
stepping back, then it's now just their work. Do you want to think about that?
I think Charlene just nailed that one, yeah.
I'm sorry, guys.
What I'm also possibly hearing in there, and it's a fear that I really have in myself too, is I've been a very strong, independent woman for a very long time. Yeah. For me to allow somebody to support me is very scary because I am getting accustomed to it. Yeah. It's feeling familiar. Yeah. And if we were to somehow break up and I had to go out back into the world to be back in my independent self, that would be a hard transition. Yeah. To go back to doing the things
oh my gosh, it would be so hard.
That I was doing now used to having somebody help me with. Yeah. That would be hard. But as a strong independent woman who's done it once before, I can do it again.
And right? Do you find yourself reminding
people that
and also
I used to do it by myself?
Like, not like, so I feel like for me, it's not like I'm like, oh, sitting back like, oh, I'm so tired. I'm not really tired. Can you? I wouldn't actually lie and say that the support isn't needed. Like, I'm probably very depleted. I'm probably very tired. But at a point, I feel like I get like a bit of guilt. I feel like, oh, am I allowing him to do too much? Should I be doing more than what I'm doing? Is the support that he's giving like too much support?
It's probably just because we're not used to the support, because
it is that
it's making you probably think you're getting more support when really and truly it's probably just teamwork, and that's what it should look like.
And something I mentioned earlier that we don't do enough of in relationship is, anyone remember?
Asking questions?
Ask questions. So what could be a question that you could ask in this situation?
Am I doing enough?
Do you feel like, am I doing enough? Or do you feel like, am I almost like, I don't know how to word it, but like almost like relying on you too much?
Yeah, you can check in with him. Like, does this feel too heavy for you? Like,
Okay.
you know, so
Yeah.
you can word it exactly how you worded it too. Like, do you feel like I'm leaning on you too much? And he might be like, no, I see that right now you really need this, and I'm happy to provide that. So then you might want to say to him, well, if it gets too much for you, can you let me know?
Okay.
And do you know what's interesting? I feel like I'm having such a self-reflective moment. No, because literally, as I was talking, as you mentioned it, and as we're talking about the teamwork stuff, I realised that you hit the nail on the head when you said, "Is it?" 'Cause I'm thinking every time when I'm talking about the bottles, and I'm saying that's what I want him to do, but I know that I'm thinking, but Charlene, when he does take her, you then be like, "Oh, don't worry, and pass her," and then you just made me reflect and think, is it me? Is it I'm doing that thing where I feel like, oh, I don't want him to, like, I'm not used to so much help. So I'm always, although I'm asking for it, I'm reverting back and thinking, no, I should be doing it, because it's almost just like, do I deserve all this help? Like, oh my gosh, the guy getting up in the night. So it's, do you know what I mean? And I think without even noticing it, I'm just like, pass her to me. When really I should just be like, maybe it's me just not wanting him to, because I'm thinking,
you're doing too much.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, am I stressing you out? Is this too much for you? When he said he wants to, and I know he doesn't mind, and it makes me back to a time, I'll never forget the time I had food shopping, and I struggled in, and he was just like, why didn't you ask me? Why did you not just, and I was just like, oh my gosh, why did I not ask you to help?
That's because you're not used to it.
But yeah, because exactly, but now I'm sure he regrets it, because now I'm like, can you come and help with one bag? But essentially, it does make you think, oh, actually, you're just not used to it.
Yeah.
I truly believe that assuming you've got a man with integrity, he will always step up to the mark. And if you've asked him to do something, and for some reason it's not happening, there's a reason, like a genuine reason. It's not that he doesn't want to or he's not trying to. Like, I really genuinely believe that men with integrity, like, they're really good men, good men.
So would you say that a lot of people don't have integrity?
No, I'd say a lot of people are in our situation of having been so strong and so independent for so long that we don't know how to receive it. Wow. And we don't know how to trust that it's truly there. And we probably don't have the communication skills, which can be learned and developed, of how to ask for what we want and how to check in and those things, you know?
Do you think that men can have
integrity? I think she's getting a coaching session herself.
You've been getting one the whole session. Do you think that men can have integrity in, I think you kind of touched on it, but do you think that they can have integrity in one relationship and not have integrity in another?
Let me just think.
Or do you think that would be kind of like just a time in their life where they maybe didn't have integrity, and maybe they've healed and now they've developed integrity?
So it definitely could be the latter. It could be that they didn't, and now because if we think about what pulls people off integrity, right, is that inner wounding, right?
Yeah.
That need for approval, that need for acceptance, that need for whatever. Yeah. So if we've managed to work on that and heal that, then yeah, we can go from not having integrity to having integrity. But could we maybe have integrity with one person but not in another? I would say that's actually, if someone can show up with integrity, like real true integrity in one place, they have the ability to do it everywhere. If they're not doing it in another place, they don't really value that other thing.
Okay. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they don't have integrity. It just means that they may not actually value
the relationship enough to show up for it. But that could be true for anybody, right? If you think about if you've ever had a friend who, I don't know, for whatever reason, like they're just not really your most authentic friend, and they're probably the one that you cancel on the most. They're probably the one that you prioritize the lowest, you know? Yeah. And the truth is, friend. As hard as it is, but you just don't really value the friendship that much, you know? Yeah. And to be honest, that person ought to have some standards and be, get rid of you and go find some people who do value them. So,
Oops. Like, that would be a fair point. So a question I did want to ask, I think we definitely might have spoken about it already.
Okay, that's cool.
But for the sake of everyone, I think we're speaking about falling in love quickly. Do you think that's a red flag? If I'm somebody, or I know somebody, and they fall in love really quickly or really fast, would you? Because I used to always say, remember, I've said it on the podcast before, I used to always be like, I'm somebody that takes a long time, and maybe I need to be more like my friends that fall in love quickly. And then the other day, someone was like to me, wait, pause, why do you want to be somebody? And they were saying the reason, they explained it to be like, people that take time is because they love themselves enough that they have a standard, which means they're not in a hurry to be accepted because they know what they bring.
Yeah.
And they put to me that people that fall in love quickly and fast is potentially, there's a bit of, it could be seen as a red flag. And it's only literally, and I've always thought that, maybe if I fall in love quickly, I would experience a different type of love, is what I used to always say. Because I used to always think, why am I so like... Yeah. But that just brought food to thought and made me just think, actually, would you suggest, I don't know, what do you think?
So, I don't think there's a hard and fast rule.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would say, if someone falls in love quickly, if they know themselves really, really deeply, and they are very connected to their body, so they're very aware of their emotions, and like they really know themselves on a soul level, and there's all of their body is a yes to choosing this relationship, then I would be like, cool, go for it. Go for it.
Yeah.
If they have a habit of doing that, and then it typically goes wrong and they typically end up very hurt, that's a red flag.
Right.
Yeah. Most people don't have what I just described. Most people don't have this deep self-knowledge with complete acceptance of all your emotions and deep, like, soul level knowledge of ourselves. Most people don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
So then I would say for most people, it probably is a red flag. But if you are one of those rare beings who is just that way, then yeah, you might know yourself well enough to make that decision. Yeah. But for most people, it's probably an indication that your standards are too surface level, and you're not thinking about the deeper layers of how you want to be met in a relationship and how you want somebody to show up, because those things take time. Yeah. Like, you know, how do you want your man to show up when he's angry, right? How do you want him to show up when he's scared and frightened? Or how do you want him to show up when he's in the car and you have a car crash or there's road rage? You know, those sort of things. The reason I'm using those examples is because that's what throws us into survival mode. All of those situations throw us into a state of survival mode. And that is when we show up at our weakest. So, yeah, that's what you want to know is, like, who is this person when they're in survival mode, and do I still like them? Because most of us, when we're in survival mode, we're not all that wonderful.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So, would you put an onus on either the man, when you think about love lasting, do you think it's completely equal, or do you think the man has, you hear all the time, a man has to like the woman more for it to last, the man has to like a woman more for it to last, blah, blah, blah. Do you think there has to be some type of, when you think of love lasting, do you think both people have to put 100%, as in we both need to, or do you think the man has to put more in, or the woman has to put more in, or do you think it's just an equal playing field, like both of us need to put in the same?
What I would say is, if one of you is putting in a lot more than the other, that's probably a red flag. Like, why? What's going on? Like, look at the deeper things. Like, do you feel worthy? Does he feel worthy? Are you scared that this is the best you're ever going to get, and so you've got to cling on with it with both hands? You know, because those are all red flags.
Yeah.
Does it need to be exactly 50%? No. But if it's significantly one way more, look at that. That's concerning. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's like...
The last piece I just want to mention, because if I don't mention it, like, we've missed it out, and I won't go into big detail.
No, go, sorry.
Navigating conflict, right? You've got to be able to navigate conflict in relationships. And that is, like, looking inwards as to what you're bringing to the situation, acknowledging, like, maybe when you messed up, because we all mess up, asking yourself that question, what can I change to help my partner be more happy that isn't detrimental to myself?
Key word.
And when you've had an argument, like, what we call is repair, like making good. And it might not just be an apology. There might need to be more than that. It might need to be a hug, or it might need to be a sit-down conversation. But, you know, asking your partner, okay, I messed up, I own that. What do I need to do to make this okay again? You know, and again, not to detriment to yourself, but what do I need to do for the good of the relationship? But do that as a regular basis. It's so, so important. So, yeah.
That was so, there's like, do you know what? It's like, I literally could sit here all day. I could literally go back and
We're going to have to do a second.
Because it's like, relationships are so complex.
Oh my God, they so are.
And I literally feel like everybody, even if you're in the most, like, for example, I'm someone that I feel like me and my partner don't argue like that. We're not an argumentative couple. We can have disagreements, but we're fortunate enough to resolve conflict quite, like, it's like, okay, we move on. But even that, though, I feel even in a relationship that necessarily doesn't have massive arguments, I actually think if every couple or single person had some type of coaching, that would really add value to your relationship, because naturally, where everyone's so different, just by means of we've grown up differently or we've got different, and I think sometimes even in platonic relationships, you just need someone to remind you of those little things that can make you be like, oh, because when you're in your own head, sometimes I think it's very hard to see, for me to get into Shaneka's head and see how she's seeing things. It's like, I know you and I can think I know what you want from me as a friend or whatever, but sometimes I think it's really useful to have someone that gives you actual steps to be like, how often do you do this? How often do you do that? How often, when are you going to take me on a date? No, I'm asking you.
You're asking me?
Yeah.
When am I going to take you on the date? When do you want to go?
I feel like we need some more quality time.
Oh, really? I think we spend enough.
No, but seriously.
She's practicing, it's good. She's asking for what she needs.
Exactly, I'm communicating.
I'm quite good at asking for what I need.
Yeah.
I think I ask too much.
Yeah, she's very good at it. But yeah, I definitely think it's so useful to have that, and I think it's nice to just have ideas, because I think just in this small time, little does he know it, I'm going home, we're going to have a chat. I'm going home, having a chat, babes, I'm coming. But, no, because I feel like it's just so, it's so good to have these conversations and talk about these things and ask these questions. And I think it actually covers almost everything we've spoken about in every other episode. You've covered here, because little things like how your man's feeling, how you ask those questions, and is his mental health considered, and are you, like, all these little things can be solved just with those steps.
And what you're saying about the coaching, like, sometimes, you know, there's a cost attached to coaching, but the value you pay out for coaching comes back in relationships, because what you learn in that, you learn with the relationship to yourself, the relationship to all your friends, the relationship with your your family, and the relationship with your partner. And basically, relationships are like pretty much the foundation of what makes life. Right? So when you invest in that type of coaching, like, it comes back to you like tenfold.
I've always been pro coach, and I've always felt like, I want to either have a coach or a therapist.
Yeah, 100%.
But for me, the question was always finding the right person. That was always the stumbling block. I'm the sort of person that I prefer to go with someone that someone has recommended. And when I don't have a lot of people around me that is into kind of coaches or has coaches or therapists, it's a bit like, so where do you go next?
There are directories as well. Like, if you particularly want a therapist, there are therapist directories and things like that. But obviously, come and work with me.
We will put all Natalie's information in the subscription box, in the whatever the description. That's the word. That one. In the description box.
The drink is.
And
is this going to be also on YouTube?
This video on YouTube. Yes. Okay. This will be on YouTube. So what you've got, we'll put everything there, all your links for everything that you offer, and really, honestly, I would recommend it 100-fold, because I spoke with Natalie outside this podcast for like 30 minutes. I got a little snuck a freebie, and in that short time, I feel like you added so much value to just how I see the littlest of things, and that integrity and trust element has made all of the difference, because I thought, do you know what, sometimes I love who I am and I love being an independent woman and strong, however, but actually it's actually so liberating, just trusting wholeheartedly
else, yeah.
and being like, I trust you.
Yeah.
And if
you
you're
saw
in
me
it,
on the weekend.
if you're
Leg
in it for
kick
like
back.
a
Laughing it up.
lifetime relationship,
Yeah.
you've got to have that.
Yeah.
It won't last. It won't last without that. Yeah.
And that was
You've
valuable.
got to jump both feet.
What was your most valuable part of this whole session?
I said integrity. I think that was one of the main things, because I think it's not something you would necessarily think of. You might think of trust, communication, all of the common things, but integrity, it's something that is actually so pivotal, but it's not something that you would easily consider. You'd think, if he was that way with someone else, not necessarily going to be like that with me, or just because he did that before doesn't mean that it doesn't. We don't really look at it we don't really connect it with the things that it kind of contributes to. So integrity.
How do you attract men with integrity? Is that too deep?
You have integrity yourself.
And then you attract.
And you uphold your standards.
Okay, standards good also.
Yeah.
So I think for everyone out there.
Yeah, for sure. You can all learn more on natalie-ford.com.
Yes, I'm going there tonight.
Literally, Natalie-Ford.com.
Yeah, FORDNATALIE.
There we go. Everything will be there, and there's a plethora of information there. Yes. And we've actually had to squeeze this in.
Yeah, we have.
And we're hoping that you'll come back another time and share again, because literally it's been
amazing, spot on.
Love it.
It's been a lot of pleasure speaking with you and learning more about you both. And I'm excited. Thank you for having me.
Well, guys, we have been Their Voice, Their Story. I have been Charlene,
and I have been Shaneka.
And we've been joined
I've been Natalie Ford.
There we go. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like. Always me. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. We love you all.